One. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Horsemen podcast. I got it right this time. I didn't have a Freudian slip. No Freudian slip this time. If you want to watch Shadow Cult, that's Saturday night. We're back for the Horsemen, and we are joined by the one and only James McBain of Hellripper once again. How's it going, my dude?
It is going very well. Thank you very much again. Yeah, it's been a while, like we were saying before.
Yeah, it's been like what, a year and a half,
close to
2 years.
Yep.
Yeah.
And a lot has happened in the world of Hellripper since.
Yeah.
A lot.
Lots of touring over in Europe, as I've seen on your Instagram, and just absolutely killing it. But most especially, the new album, Warlocks, Scream, and Withered Hags.
Mm-hmm.
Which, I will say, no joke, up there for my favorite album of this year. I mean, there's been a lot of great stuff. Like, right now, it's like neck and neck with this, Enslaved, Ne Obliviscaris, Enforced, and a few others I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, you're in great company with killer releases this year. But so before we get into the big topic of the episode, which will be the top 10 first wave / proto-black metal albums, why don't we talk a little bit about the new album, and I'll let Ricky start things off.
I mean, this album, I gotta say, James, this has to be one of your best works so far. Every single album you've done, you've gotten better and better and better.
Thank you, man. Yeah.
And the last time that we talked, you kind of sort of briefly told us that we were going to involve some of, I think, Scottish history into the album. And yeah, you kind of did that plus more. The fact that on the title track, on the title track, which is my personal favorite, you have bagpipes. When was the last time you heard bagpipes in a metal song? That's not folk metal.
Yeah, I thought it was something a bit different for black speed metal. I'm sure it's been done. I think I feel like Absu might have done it before.
That would sound like something Absu would have done.
Yeah.
I feel like, but yeah, it was something a bit different, and it fit the lyrical theme of the track and of the album and the song. It's not like the title song that you're speaking about. It's one of the only songs that's not like kind of speed metal. It's more Bathory kind of influence.
Yeah.
Especially at the end, like that big melody at the end. I immediately thought of like Call from the Grave, Blood, Fire, Death.
Yeah,
like,
a bit doomy at first. Starts a bit doomier.
I always said, I think I said it in my review, I got like little hints of like Slow, Slayer, and Sabbath, especially at the beginning with that opening melody.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess so. I can't even remember what I was, where like the opening part, like the acoustic, the clean guitar part. Yeah, I can't remember, but yeah. It was a fun song to do. It was, again, it was something different to what I usually do with Hellripper, mid-paced, kind of Bathory influenced, late 80s, early 90s Metallica, some Iron Maiden. That's where the main bit of the bagpipe part. It was very kind of Dance of Death, Iron Maiden inspired, like that kind of thing. Just based on the whole thing, I thought, the bagpipes would be a good addition to this part. Maybe make it a bit more epic, offer something different, tie in with the lyrical themes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so and it came out well. And I was I didn't know how it was going to sound. Was it just a stupid idea? Just
just grew and grew and grew.
Yeah, I just don't want it to ruin the song. I wouldn't have included it if it didn't sound good. But yeah, I was excited to get the bagpipes in, and I'm pleased with how it sounds. And
I freaked the fuck out at the very end of the song. I was like, what the fuck, bagpipes?
What's going on?
What's going on? I was like, oh my, it fits so well. Like, holy shit.
Yeah, it was cool. Again, maybe something like that will happen in future stuff, but I've said to a few people before, like it's got to fit. I don't want to just now include bagpipes for no reason and stuff, just to make it a thing. It's got to work with the songs. work with the music and work with the themes and things like that. Like I don't really want to put bagpipes in songs about like, I don't want to put it in like a 2-minute Black Speed song, satanic stuff, you know, like it would make no sense for me in that context. But I've got a few ideas because the next album will most likely be following on kind of Scottish based in the themes. And I've got a few ideas of where I could include some different things as well as bagpipes. There's a specific thing I want to do where bagpipes would be required. I'm not sure if it'll be on the next album or if it will be on an EP, or it depends where the song goes, because I've started work on the next album, but it's kind of, you know, just like a million ideas kind of everywhere. I'm not I haven't put much together yet. But yeah.
Now, of course, there were a couple other songs on here that really caught me off guard because of certain elements, but Hissing Marshes, oh my God, I just love how that starts off with that great bass line and into that D beat. I immediately thought of Iron Fist and Ace of Spades.
Ace of Spades, yeah.
It was like, and the best way to describe it, as my boys over at the Thralls of Metal said, it was almost like Lemmy was coming from the heavens and enchanting you with his spirit, like, James, you go and you fucking kill it. And it just happened, and I just love how it was almost like an homage to Lemmy and Motorhead. But the big song I wanted to talk about is the final track, Mr. Storeworm, being the longest track you've ever done. And like so much going on, like blazing blast beats, the thrashiness, D beats, and then this big like acoustic lick. And then suddenly you get into this like section that I wish I could have brought up in my review, and then I didn't really think about it until I was hearing other people say it. To me, that like triplet groove you were going into with the melodic guitars made me think of classic Opeth, like My Arms, You're Hers, Baying of the Hounds, like was like kind of like prog kind of an influence a little bit on that song to some extent.
I guess so. Bands like Opeth, Edge of Sanity, Witherscape, all that kind of stuff, Porcupine Tree, a lot of that. So just bands I was listening to. I wasn't really thinking like explicitly like let's do a prog song. But as the song kind of progressed, you know, I had the beginning part, and as I was putting the pieces together, there were a few different directions I wanted to go, and I wanted to try a few different things. And the theme came up for the song as well, you know, the story of the Stoorworm. And so again, that was something a bit different, which I don't think I've really explored before, where I made the song, but the music of the song kind of follows the lyrics, you know, like whatever's happening in the story, the music's reflecting that. So, you know, you've got like the battle in the middle where there's like, the black metal parts, and at the very end where it's like a kind of triumphant ending, it's got the kind of, I don't know what how you would describe the very last kind of,
something epic.
Yeah, it's kind of an epic kind of feeling thing at the end. With I was listening to a lot of like Agalloch and Opeth, loads of different stuff, and putting some like guitar harmonies in there, like Iron Maiden stuff. Yeah, just try to kind of draw influence from everywhere and try and make the song fit the lyrics, and make the lyrics fit the song, and make it a good song. That's the most important part.
Absolutely.
It's easy to it's easy to have the idea, but to make it work was quite difficult. You know, I've got about 20 different versions of that song with different structures, different parts, different riffs, different lengths. One is like 11, 12 minutes. One is like 6 minutes. You know, just and then trying to find the balance of which works best. You know, you've got to sacrifice some parts that I thought were really cool, but they just didn't work in the context of the song, and so they'll be used at some point later. But yeah, it was a really fun one to do again, and yeah, loads of blast beats, acoustic guitar, loads of guitar harmonies,
and even death metal roars occasionally.
Yeah, I really wanted to do that as well. Kind of have in between like some sections, the vocal parts, the vocal styles are different. So the verse parts are very like high vocals, like high screechy vocals, and then the chorus, pre-chorus go a bit lower, death metal style, and then kind of alternate throughout the song, which was really fun. I don't think there's been a Hellripper song where the death growl has been as prominent, but I love that kind of vocals, and I think that was just cool to fit in there. And yeah, it was just it was a cool song. I'm very happy with how it turned out as well. There was a lot of production kind of things, like trying to make it like atmospheric and textures, and adding guitars in the background, and with the acoustic parts as well, which was something I've never really recorded with like Hellripper, trying to mix that. And so there was a lot of the whole album, really, there was a lot of kind of experimenting with production, learning new techniques, trying different things, adding like atmospheric layered guitars, layered vocals, adding some like choir parts on the title track, which you can't really hear, but when you take them out of the mix, you can hear that there's like a space there. Same with a lot of things. There's kind of a lot of subtle things like buried in the mix, like guitar parts happening and guitar harmonies happening, but really low in the mix so that they're barely audible. But when you take them out, you can hear there's a difference. So yeah, it was fun. A lot of this album was kind of experimenting with that sort of stuff, and it's the most fun I've had doing recording anything. I was just kind of trying to take all influences from everywhere, like even non-metal stuff, and just anything I liked, and trying to incorporate that in a Black Speed Hellripper context. It was really fun. If I heard something that I liked in a Beatles song, for example, thinking how could something like that work in this
context,
in a 200 beats per minute speed metal context, how can I do that? So yeah, it was fun, and it was really it was just fun. Like I enjoyed the process, and it was kind of it was just I just really enjoyed it, and I feel like I'm getting closer to the like a Hellripper sound, if you know what I mean, like just kind of trying to merge all my influences into one coherent sound that sounds good and doesn't sound like you're just taking stuff from random places and it's like all disjointed and stuff like that. I'm trying to merge it all, if I'm making any sense. But it was
merge it all into this big evil cauldron.
Exactly. So I'm looking forward to what I've got in the next album, and whatever I release next. It's because it's always fun. Like I still really like doing the straightforward 2-minute, 3-minute black thrash metal punk songs. But I had a few of them. I still have a few of them in progress. But when they work in the context of an album, it's very because you've got to, all the songs have got to kind of work together in an album context. So I think my plan is kind of to release maybe a few singles or an EP or something with songs that don't fit what I have in mind for the next album and things like that. Just because it's annoying when you have songs that I'm really happy with, songs that I think are really good, but they just don't work in the context of the album, like with the other songs. So that's really annoying. So I want to release them somehow and get them get them out there. So yeah, we'll see. I've kind of been just busy planning a lot of other stuff, you know, tours and stuff like you mentioned, tours, and with the new album, sending all the orders out and all that kind of stuff, and just loads of non-music stuff has kind of been taking up my time recently. A lot of planning, admin, that kind of stuff, but yeah.
So I can definitely see like an EP of like a collection of songs that didn't fit the overarching theme of an album. Like totally appropriate, and I'll be there to pre-order it once that gets confirmed. That would be pretty sweet.
Thank you, man.
No problemo, compadre.
And I'm pretty sure Peaceful must be really, really happy with the album that came out with, because honestly, from the people I've talked to, from Banger TV reviewing it, to everybody who has listened to it has given you high appreciation for this album.
Yeah.
And of course, with the tour going along, how's that been so far? Any stories you want to share with us with the tour? Because I'm pretty sure it must be really, really a lot of fun.
Yeah, so since the new album came out, it's there was it was a lot more exposure and eyes on the album than I expected. You know, like a lot of people talking about it, a lot more than I expected, which is of course great. And most of the response has been positive so far, so I'm really glad about that. Like I say, I'm really happy with how the album came out, so I'm glad people agree. And I hope Peaceful's happy with the album. I
mean, you're up there with Elite Company, Autopsy, and Dark Throne in particular. So,
but in regards with the tour, we haven't really started the touring process properly yet. We've done a few kind of shows. We done one festival in the Netherlands in March, which was really fun. We done a sort of album release show the week before the album. It was kind of, we had the show planned, and then the album release date was then planned for the next week, so it kind of coincided well. And then we've done a few dates with Warbringer in the UK, which was really fun. I love Warbringer. Great guys, great band. And that was kind of the first, non-festival shows since the album was released. So it was cool to see a lot of new people and people that had just heard of Hellripper now. And the audiences were crazy. And now we're just gearing up for a summer tour, playing some festivals and playing a bunch of shows with Tulkandra, Midnight, Riot City, Jag Panzer. So summer is going to be quite cool, and that's kind of where the bulk of the touring will be. And then we've just kind of confirmed a really cool tour for the start of next year, which I'm really looking forward to, and that'll be crazy. I can't go in any more details, but that'll be that's something to be really cool. So there's not really much to say on the touring front other than the few shows that we have played so far have been great. It's cool seeing people and seeing new people get into the band, and seeing just all people that are already fans of the band. It's like that's the part of the live shows that I like, the meeting people, and because I appreciate everyone's support, so I love to. It's great to meet people that like the band and chat with people and stuff like that. But a lot of live shows coming up, and we'll see how that goes. Like I say, I've just been planning everything for all of that. It begins this month in a few weeks, so just getting everything, getting all the travel, the equipment stuff sorted. Everyone's letting everyone know like the schedules and where we're staying, all that kind of stuff, just the tour planning stuff. So I've been doing that recently.
That's cool. Still waiting for that North American tour to come in the near future. But then again, anything is possible now that fucking Maiden finally played Alexander the Great live.
Yes. Which, I remember you sent that on Facebook, and even I was kind of like, wait, what? You're kidding? They finally played that song?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But crazy things happen.
yeah, hopefully we'll get over it. I don't think it's going to happen next year. We've been hopefully 2025. I think just because of crazy like all the costs involved, and then the scheduling.
Yeah.
And since the new album, our schedule has kind of our schedules, we're getting a lot busier in Europe and things like that. So it's difficult to, kind of do as much. I mean, if we've got like a month or 2 months planned in Europe, it's difficult then to plan an American tour just because of the time involved as well, because we're not a band that are going to tour 6 months a year or whatever, it's not really my interest. So yeah, we'll get over there eventually. Once we can make it work, once everything makes sense and all that kind of stuff. I want to get over there. I'm not avoiding it on purpose. I want to get over there when it makes sense and when we can make it, financially viable, working for everyone's schedules, when the offers are cool, like when all of that happens at the same time, because we've had I've spoke with a few people and had a few cool offers, and which I'd love to have done, but it's just not possible. And it's annoying because it would have been great. But yeah, once everything aligns, it will happen.
Yeah, because I always imagine an American tour, Hellripper, Midnight, and perhaps a band like Creator or Sodom or
Watain. Like oh God, it would be so amazing.
That would be a pretty sweet show for sure, and I will be there.
But then again, hopefully Watain does get through customs.
Their visa issues sorted out, like last year when they were supposed to have been playing with Mayhem and Midnight. But,
and I almost bought tickets to that show. I almost bought tickets.
Which actually, real quick, before we get into the top 10 here, you brought up Edge of Sanity earlier. I don't know if I told you this on Instagram last year or not, but we did get a chance to talk to the main man, Dan Swano himself, and I still can't believe it.
Yeah,
I still can't believe it. Like, he's one of my heroes, and oh man,
yeah. I mean, that episode we did it like so early in the morning because he was in Germany, different time zone, and
he had to go to work too,
and I had to go to work later after that. So I was like, oh. But thankfully,
I gotta be able to get through this. But thankfully, it went off without a hitch, and oh my god, it was still great. And then, funny enough, like a couple days later, we talked to Jeremy Wagner from Broken Hope, which we had been planning that interview for a year, because he was busy with like festival shows over in Vegas, rehearsing, and also getting ready for the new Broken Hope album whenever that comes. But quick funny thing that happened during that, or not during that interview, but afterwards. We did that episode the way we're doing it here on StreamYard. Goes perfect. I did hear loud thunder about halfway through the episode. And then literally after we finished, not 5 minutes afterwards, big storm comes through and knocked my power out. So it's like, oh, I'm fortunate I got that episode in. Otherwise, this would have been bad.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, and we've been getting more people on here. Most particularly, most of the guys at Blood Red Throne we've had on here. We're just now missing the two originals, Freddie and Daniel. So we'll eventually get those guys. And then, of course,
we were supposed to have from Immolation, of course.
Or no, Incantation, John McEntee. Which
Immolation, Incantation. It's too early for me.
That's coming down the pike, as well as Samantha from Frozen Soul, eventually as well. So yeah, we've been getting up there. We really have been getting up there. So
I keep telling him, if we ever get Michael Ackerfeld, he's gonna have a heart attack.
Yeah, man.
or more especially James Hetfield. But then again, he's so busy. Why the hell would he pop in on two dumb misfits from America? One from Iowa, one from Texas. But then again, anything's possible, so you never know. But yeah, I tell you, if we ever by sheer accident get James Hetfield on this show, that would be like I'd probably have a fanboy moment at that because he's my idol.
Anybody from Metallica, pretty much.
Even Lars. I would even love it if Lars was on here and he'd be a goofball.
Hell, I would love to have Jason Newsted on the show.
Absolutely.
Talk about Flotsam and Jetsam.
And a solo album, but that's all down that pike. Back to this. So now, time to talk the big topic, and that is top 10 first wave / proto-black metal albums from 1981 to 1991. Now, the reason I picked this time frame is because, well, 81, you had like Venom, Welcome to Hell, and then over time, I about knocked my phone off. Then over time in the 80s, you saw more bands coming up that were inspirational to what would eventually become proper black metal, and that would go on until 91. And the reason I cut it off at 91 is because starting in 92 was when the Norwegian scene started to get big with Darkthrone and Immortal at first. So I figured, if we were to have done in the 92, it'd probably get saturated with a lot of Norwegian releases. So 81 to 91, so about an 11-year gap there. But kicking things off with some honorable mentions, Ricky, why don't you start?
I have 5 honorable mentions, and like I said, this was difficult to actually choose because I was trying to make it 1 album per band on my top 10, and I would have gone like 1 band, 5 albums. And it would have gone crazy. But I have 5 honorable mentions. The first one is an album that doesn't really get talked about. It's a debut album from this band called Tormentor. The album called Anno Domini. It's an album that's really not talked about. It's Tormentor, a band that really should be recognized a bit more than it should be.
From Hungary.
Yeah, of all places, Hungary. Yeah.
And of course, the big claim to fame with Tormentor, Attila, who would later be in Mayhem.
Yeah, it's funny to think that after that, he went to be in another black metal band, a bigger black metal band. Mayhem.
And still there to this day.
Another honorable mention, Obsessed by Cruelty. Regardless of what you think of Sodom, I mean, I do see the argument that the first album and the first EP help influence black metal. I mean, that rawness of
and Tom Angel Ripper's vocal approach at that point.
Yeah. Third honorable mention, Welcome to Hell. Of course, the debut album by Venom. Of course, there's so many songs from there. Of course, the title track, Poison, probably one of my personal favorites. Angel Dust, 1,000 Days in Sodom.
Yeah, Mayhem with Mercy.
Exactly.
But I'm still listening. I'm just grabbing stuff.
Yeah. My other honorable mention is To Megatherion. Kind of helped the symphonic black metal things of perspectives. Then again, some people call this the first album. Others call it the second album. Depending on who you're going to talk to. Tom G. Work and Judge's Mind. Like, this was our first album. This was our second album. But regardless, to me personally, To Megatherion was their second album. That album cover, which I've done on that controversial album series, my God, the painting is so amazing and brutal. The fact they have the fucking demon having the crucifix like a slingshot and just like, come at me, motherfuckers. What are you gonna do? And the last honorable mention, where the fuck is it? Oh fuck, I forgot to get this album.
That's what I'm having to do. I completely forgot to get stuff too. Impromptu bullshit. I'm trying to screen from here too.
And my last honorable mention, of course, we have the subtitled Bathory.
Of course.
Because it's, again, I've mentioned many times, it's the first Bathory album. For historical purposes, this album has influenced so many bands. I mean, Hades, my personal favorite song with the album. Reaper's another one. And Conspiracy with Satan. Sacrifice. War. I mean, it's a great album. Yeah, sure, the production's not the greatest. But then again, it's the first Bathory album. I think the first Bathory album, when it was released, sold like 30,000 copies in the first printing. And of course, those vinyl editions, the first editions are so expensive that You might want to sell your fucking house just to get one of those fuckers.
Pretty much.
Yeah, those are my honorable mentions.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I love it. I mean, yeah, a few of those are related albums to those. Yeah, they're in my list. So, yeah.
All right, so I have some honorable mentions of my own, and all completely different from Ricky's. So, starting off with one of the two albums at that cutoff at 91, Master's Hammer Ritual. Check. Oh, and you're number 10.
Yep,
nice.
10.
Yeah, a Czech band just doing their own thing and just making some very bizarre black metal, if I must say. Like the vocals, very unlike a lot of black metal bands coming out at that point. Like very frantic style, I will say. And like even musically, it's like very frantic with like almost like stop and go blasts where it's like like they're just pounding your fucking skull in with those blasts. But yeah, that would be one honorable mention because they would kind of be a template for some of the second wave bands. Next up, Destruction Sentence of Death EP.
Yeah.
After all, that early German thrash, so influential on this whole entire era. And I would say Destruction with Sentence of Death, and to a lesser extent, Infernal Overkill, their first album, you could say, but particularly Sentence of Death, like that album cover with the upside down crosses, the spikes, the studs, and then songs like Black Death, just mind-boggling. Next up, Bulldozer, The Day of Wrath. Basically, for those uninitiated, Bulldozer, best I describe them, Italian Venom and Bathory to some extent, because they were a little more speed metal on this album. They would get a bit thrashier on the next couple of albums, but Day of Wrath, it was very much like Motorhead and Venom and early Bathory, like very raw, a lot of those punky D-beat stomps going on. Vocally, it was a little bit lower register compared to some other bands at that point. But yeah, Bulldozer. Plus, they're fucking fun. Songs like Whiskey Time, perfect party song. And that's also kind of a theme a little bit, too, with some of these early wave bands or proto-black, is they got a little bit of that sleazy quality that I do love, like in Midnight and even to some degree Hellripper having a little bit of that sleaziness at times. Next up, Morbid December Moon. Which you could also look at this as like influential on death metal as well, because I mean, listen to the lineup of musicians you had in this. Pearl and Dead on vocals, Uffe Sutherland from Nihilist and Entombed on guitars, and the late great L.G. Petrov on drums. So yeah, this album I would say not only influential on early black metal, but very influential on Swedish death metal because of look where everybody went. Entombed, Nihilist, and even Mayhem. And then finally, my final honorable mention, and this is another one similar to Morbid that you could argue very influential on black metal and death metal, Volcano, Bloody Vengeance.
Volcano. Yeah, it's another great
Some of them Brazilian bands as well, just like some of the German thrash bands were very influential. And Bloody Vengeance, only like 24 minutes long because they compact so many short songs, but you get like hyper speed thrashiness, like Dominios of Death, the song Death Metal, the title track with Voices from Hell, where you just hear demons having an orgy, it sounds like, and then into like some doomy, heavy, brutal shit. And this is an album I've been needing to get in the collection, but hard to find, so it's gonna take time. But yeah, Volcano, Bloody Vengeance.
Yeah.
James, any honorable mentions you might have?
Yes, I had a few. So yeah, the Morbid as well. I was going to mention that. I didn't include it because it's more of like demos and stuff like that. Like, and yeah, I think as a person that got into metal, when did I get into metal? You know, late 2000s, early 2010s, like that kind of time. As a person that got into metal around that time and, you know, discovering things and all that, I think I first heard of Morbid from the Repugnant cover from when Repugnant done the cover on their only album. And then I went back and listened to that, you know. Who else? I had a few, like Sabbath from Japan, one of my all-time favorites. A lot of their early stuff, like from the 80s, pre-first album. I mean, I love their first few albums, but I think they're all just kind of at the cutoff. I think it was like
1991.
Yeah, it was the first
So
one.
yeah, their first album would have fit for sure.
So yeah, I included like the early stuff, you know, like the first single and just like the pre, like just as a band in general, you know, you've got songs like Blackfire and Mayon's Hill and stuff like that. And then I had Volcano as well, and a bunch of like the early Italian scene. So bands like Death SS, like the early stuff before, again, pre-first album.
Yeah,
it was a lot more extreme than like later, and bands like Bulldozer, Necrodeath, Schizo.
Necrodeath. I forgot Necrodeath.
Yeah, all of that kind of Italian scene. And then, there's a lot of bands like the ones I just kind of mentioned. It was maybe they didn't release albums until later. So you've got Rotting Christ, Varathron, Death SS, Morbid, Sabbath, like where they didn't release albums, or they didn't release albums within the cutoff period that we're mentioning or whatever. So yeah, a lot of cool stuff. I think a lot of these influential stuff. It's similar with the new wave of British heavy metal, where bands just didn't reach the stage of recording an album. In some cases, you know, they released like one single, 1 7-inch, or they were on a compilation or something, and
right.
then kind of forgotten about. In that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think that's all my honorable mentions that I want to bring up.
Yeah. All right, but now into the actual top 10. So kicking things off with my number 10 is...
Oh, apologies. That is my door going.
No worries.
2 seconds.
No worries.
No worries.
Never thought that would happen. I thought that was Ricky's door.
I thought that was your door.
Nah, I don't have that fancy of a doorbell.
No, neither do I. First time in history, people.
You never know what you get on this show.
It's like in WWE. You never know. But yeah, I completely forgot about Volcano. I was like, damn, that's really, 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 really out there.
Yeah.
Oh, apologies about that.
No worries.
Did you like the evil doorbell sound?
Yeah, so evil. I was expecting more of Horas Lucifer kind of sound to it.
Yeah, or some sort of like Exorcist theme, tubular bells or something.
Oh,
or the score to Phantasm that Entomb did. That would have been fun.
Yeah.
But anyway, so starting off with my number 10, back to some of the early German thrash stuff, and I think when it comes to first wave proto-black, one of the most influential bands, Creator, Endless Pain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
After all, it's like you listen to this and then you go into Pleasure to Kill. It's like night and day in terms of their style and sound.
Yeah.
Like here, little grittier, much more raw. Starting off with that title track, just goes full on swinging, and then into songs like Total Death, which Dark Throne would take the title for the album. And I like how they alternate vocals on this album. Like every odd number track, it's Ventor, the drummer, singing, and then the even number tracks, it's Mille Petrosa. And Mille's vocals is really what kind of gives it that blackened vibe, because it's so high register and it feels like a black metal vocal, whereas Ventor's feels more like in between thrash and death metal vocals almost, because it's much lower. But yeah, and then this particular version even comes with bonus tracks like Armies of Hell, the song Tormentor, like their early demo stuff when they were known as Tormentor before becoming Creator. But yes, Flag of Hate, Storm of the Beast, the song Tormentor, those are like quintessential proto-black metal songs. So yeah, Creator, Endless Pain.
Yeah, that was on my list as well. So I'll go with that. Yeah, I agree. Some of the songs, like Tormentor and Flag of Hate, still basically like kind of staples in the live set and like kind of ultimate Creator songs. And yeah, if you listen to the first Hellripper EP, it's basically an attempt at Endless Pain. The riffs are basically Endless Pain stuff. But yeah,
Right.
I could have said Pleasure to Kill as well, just because of its extreme. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But yeah,
could have went Pleasure to Kill, but then again, there could be the argument that was maybe more influential to death metal.
Yeah, I thought that was
because of the more brutal sound that they were going for on there.
Yeah,
I even had that thought in my head too.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd go with Endless Pain, one of my favorites. A very influential album to me personally as well. And just really cool.
Now my number 9, and this one, I see this album gets a lot of flack, and I don't understand it. Maybe because they were expecting full speed, but instead you get more doom and groove on here. Samael, Worship Him.
Oh, the first Samael.
Still my personal favorite, Samael. Like Blood Ritual and Ceremony of Opposites, which come out after this era, really good. And then they become one of the premier industrial metal bands now, which is cool. But I like the early stuff. And like here, Worship Him. Yeah, like I said, I see this album gets a lot of flack online because we want blast beats, we want like super tremolo riffs. You still get some of that on here, like the song Morbid Metal. That's like a quintessential black metal song, but mostly this is like groove laden and doomy for the most part. Like basically almost like a continuation of Hellhammer a little bit, but with a better production and more defined songwriting, because songs like the title track, the title track, Knowledge of the Ancient Kingdom, that's got some like almost Black Sabbath-ness to it. Into the Pentagram is probably the big highlight on here, and that's one of my favorite black metal songs ever. But yeah, and even some of the instrumental clips you get on here are really, really cool. But yeah, not full on speed. It's more varied in the songwriting, but that's what I love about it. And also one of my favorite black metal guitar tones I've ever heard. It's so crunchy and also even a bit brutal. Like, I don't know if brutal black metal could be a thing, but I would say this could be like a starting point for that because of just how heavy it sounds. But yes, Samael, Worship Him.
Worship Him.
My number 8. I'm not doing the burp this time, Ricky, so you can cross that off your mind. Maybe Saturday. But yeah, my number 8. Yeah, I'm going to have a couple of EPs on this list because you kind of have to have these on a list like this because of the impact. But my number 8, Mayhem Death Crush.
It's on my list.
And I like how I got the actual Death Like Silence version because even though I still to this day don't understand it, but on the back you get the censor sign over Scott Burns, which Hieronymus.
We've talked about this so many times.
It's like beating a dead horse at this point, but whatever. But anyways, yeah, Death Crush, the first studio recording for Mayhem after doing a couple of demos and really kind of starting off on like a similar path to, or like some of the other bands during this era, playing more cover songs and then eventually coming up with their own stuff. And unlike future Mayhem, this was still like very much like thrashy, and dare I say a little bit of early death metal, and grindcore a little bit with just how extreme it sounds. But yeah, songs like the title track, Chainsaw Gutsfuck, still features some of the most brutal lyrics you will ever see. And hell, just recently I reviewed the latest offering from Church of the Dead, an upcoming Finnish death metal band. They do a great cover of Chainsaw Gutsfuck. You'll know more about that on tomorrow's Under the Radar episode for those watching on YouTube. But with doing a great cover, punky, thrashy cover of Venom Witching Hour, Necrolust, Pure Fucking Armageddon with like insane blast beats. And the two different vocalists, Messiah doing the more almost death metal vocals, and then Maniac doing his signature style that he would get better at later on in Mayhem and towards the end of the 90s, early 2000s. But yeah, Death Crush. If Euronymous was alive, I would tell it to him to his face, you were into death metal and grindcore at this point, and there's a lot of that on here, so deal with it, you twat.
And the fact that your first band was a death metal band on your record who was inspired by Sodom.
Merciless. But we digress. Like I said, the whole Euronymous thing, it's like beating a dead horse at this point, so I'm just going to cut that head off while I'm at it. But yeah, still Death Crush, awesome EP, one of the best EPs of all time for metal, and it's my number 8. Speaking of EPs, my number 7, and I'm shocked I didn't put this higher on my list, but I figured with the other ones I'm going to talk about, you'll get it. But one of my all-time favorite EPs, Sodom and the Sign of Evil.
It's in my list too.
And like, holy shit, I mean, just the rawness of this, and like hearing the stories, watching the Sodom documentary, Lords of Depravity, Part 1, seeing the story, it's like they were signed to SPV, but they thought, oh, this might be a bit too extreme. How about we create a subsidiary called Devil's Game and release this? And it comes out tail end of 1984 into 1985. And it's just raw, gritty, evil, yet brutal. Like even the other contemporaries of the German scene, like Creator and The Destruction, Tankard, Exhumer, Holy Moses would even say, probably the most brutal thing to come out of that scene at that time. I mean, songs like Witching Metal, which is like an anthem almost to the whole scene. Blasphemer, one of my favorite thrashy songs from this early period. Outbreak of Evil, still a classic. Burst Command Till War, just every song on here just absolutely rips. But yeah, Sodom and the Sign of Evil, and one of my favorite album covers, just with the knight with the sword.
Yeah. Yes, one of the most iconic, most recognizable things.
And I love how on their latest compilation they put out last year, the 40 Years of War, you get the gas mask soldier fighting this guy. It's like perfect way to combine both eras on one album cover. So I thought that was pretty clever. But yeah, In the Sign of Evil. Number 6, and my last primarily EP on the list. And it's another one that when you're talking proto-black or first wave black, this band has to be brought up, and that is, of course, Hellhammer Apocalyptic Raids. I mean, Swiss band just out there playing noisy stuff and just being evil for the sake of being evil, just to go over the top and just see what they could get away with. Unfortunately, the only like full proper studio recording we ever got from Hellhammer before breaking up and then becoming another band we'll talk about later. But I mean, Satanic Slaughter, Slayed Necros, and Denial Fiend just absolutely delivering, and then some. Tracks like Massacre, Triumph of Death, with 10 minutes of just haunting doominess, with Tom Weird sounding like he's being strangled to death. Horus Aggressor, Messiah, probably next to Triumph of Death, my favorite Hellhammer song, period. So punky and D-beat oriented. It's just, it's like the chef's kiss almost. But yeah, as they say, only death is real. Apocalyptic Raids. Now for my number 5, I have a tie because these are two bands that release stuff around the same time and have a rather intense history together because of issues between a couple of guys. But we're back to Brazil. Sarcophago, INRI, and Sepultura, Morbid Visions, and Bestial Devastation. Why not? But yeah, complicated history between these two bands, particularly with the Cavaleras and Wagner, the frontman of Sarcophago, who was the original frontman of Sepultura before ditching him because of whatever happened behind the scenes that I'm hoping has been resolved by this point, but I digress. But yeah, with Sarcophago, 1987, which was probably the most pivotal year for this era because of this and another release that I'll be talking about in a little bit. But INRI, this is another one you could also consider influential to death metal as well, just because of the brutality and the blast beats being more death metal oriented as opposed to black metal oriented. But you still get the black metal tremolo riffs and vocally much lower. Like honestly, like early death metal vocals being done with the occasional high scream. But yeah, songs like Satanic Lust, Nightmare, even though I think they do a better version of that song on the Rotting EP, which I thought about including Rotting, but I thought that was more death metal, so I left that off. The title track, Satanas, Death Thrash, given the name to one of my favorite fusion genres. The Black Vomit, it's just putrid. The Last Slaughter, like top to bottom, just over the top. I mean, a song called Ready to Fuck. How more over the top can you get than that? But yeah, Sarcophago, INRI. And then with Morbid Vision / Bestial Devastation, yeah, very early Sepultura when they were just ripping it out, just trying to come up with the most extreme sound they could think of. And I mean, not the best recording, pretty rough, really rough around the edges. Guitar is not in tune, but that's what I kind of like about it. It's just that raw charm that adds character. Songs like the title track, which the Cavalera Brothers did recently release a re-recording of, and it sounds incredible. But songs like Mayhem, Troops of Doom, the original version, it's completely different from the re-recording you would get on the reissue of their second album, Schizophrenia. Show Me the Wrath, Crucifixion, Empire of the Damned. And then, of course, with Bestial Devastation, you got like Antichrist, title track, Warriors of Death, Necromancer. Just early Sepultura, nothing like the Sepultura you hear today. Or even what they would become on the next album. It's like total night and day. But yeah, humble beginnings for some young kids out of Belo Horizonte. So, yeah. My number 5's both INRI and Morbid Visions. Number 4 is one I'm shocked some people, I'm sure there's going to be people thinking this probably should be number 1. For me, it's my number 4. Black Metal by Venom.
Really? Wow.
It was tough. But I mean, again, another one you can't have a list like this without, because given the name of the genre, black metal, and it's like pretty much this album I always see is like the basis for a lot of the Black and Speed bands, like a Midnight and Hellripper to some extent, and like even Toxic Holocaust, Bewitcher, among so many bands. I always look at this album as being like the launching point for Black and Speed because of just those punk elements with the D beats and such. But even one slower song, Buried Alive, and that's a really cool song. The title track, Black Metal, the anthem of the genre, you could say. Raise the Dead, really cool punky song. Same with Teacher's Pet.
Oh, Teacher's Pet.
Teacher's Pet. Yeah. But yeah, Teacher's Pet. I mean, I love you, Van Halen, and I love Hot for Teacher, but step aside. This is the real Teacher's fantasy song. Sacrifice, Countess Bathory, which such a popular song, and ended up in X-Men Apocalypse of all movies. Don't Burn the Witch, another great one. I mean, top to bottom, it's just fun, over the top, and just sleazy as all get out. But yeah, Venom. The Godfathers you could look at. Now my number 3. And this one, some people might be scratching their head at, but when you listen to it musically, completely different from everything they would have going forward after this. Slayer, Show No Mercy.
I was thinking of putting Slayer on the list, but I was like, nah. At that point, they were more thrashy.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can say like this is a quintessential proto-black album because, yeah, very much speed thrash metal on here, the early beginnings of Slayer, but like the lyrical content and even the album cover and like the influences, like they were really into Venom and Iron Maiden and Judas Priest at this point, which was like the big leading path for a lot of these bands on this list. But yeah, Show No Mercy, I just really love the more rawness of this album, and it's does not sound anything like Slayer would do right after this, starting with Haunting the Chapel, but the only album where they're in standard tuning, which is kind of odd, but did it very, very well in like the higher screams of Tom Araya. Songs like Evil Has No Boundaries, The Antichrist, and Black Magic, I would say, are 2 quintessential proto-black songs. Die by the Sword as well. But still very thrashy with songs like the title track. Cryonics is another good one. Fight Till Death. Metal Storm Face to Slayer. I think that's a song that needs to get more love because that opening kind of made me think of Creeping Death by Metallica, and then it gets into this like big guitar harmony and then into chaos. But yeah, Slayer, Show No Mercy, my number 3. My number 2, this is going to be 2 releases in one because they're essentially the same thing, just different recordings on a couple tracks. But my number 2, Celtic Frost Morbid Tales / Emperor's Return. Still my personal favorite Celtic Frost release, and love the production on the Morbid Tales sessions. It's like that middle balance between raw and well-produced because, well, raw production, but with like a well-done mix. Like everything's audible, the bass, the kick drum, the guitars, the vocals. And just, I love the fun of these songs. Into the Crypts of Rays, quintessential thrash song, I would say. Dethroned Emperor, Visions of Mortality, Procreation of the Wicked. You could almost look at that song as like a proto-Death Doom song because of the slowness. And of course, I would always say like Tom Warrior's vocals, especially starting on Celtic Frost, I would say were more death metal than black metal because they were lower. And of course, John Tardy, Martin Van Drunen, Carl Willits would all take cues from Tom Warrior. Cam Lee take cues from Tom Warrior's vocals and do it in their own way. Even the little weird Dance Macabre track where it sounds like a gothic horror orgy, even I find that to be mildly entertaining. Nocturnal Fear, super thrashy. And then the Emperor's Return tracks, like the early version of Circle of the Tyrants, Visual Aggression, one of my favorite thrash songs from Celtic Frost, Suicidal Winds. I mean, top to bottom, absolute brilliance. And my personal favorite band out of this whole list, but Celtic Frost. Oh, we lost Ricky. The lagger has come back, apparently. Don't worry, he'll be back. But yeah, Celtic Frost, Morbid Tales / Emperor's Return.
Yeah.
But there can only be one number 1. Not only quintessential to this era, but even I would make the argument, the greatest black metal album ever created. Without this album, who the hell knows what could have happened? Bathory Under the Sign of the Black Mark.
Yeah.
I mean, oh man, talk about a quantum leap from the first 2 albums. Like the debut, quintessential sleazy first wave black metal, black and speed, black and thrash. The Return, still kind of keeping in that, but kind of defining what black metal should be. This, perfection. Perfected the black metal sound with the blast beats, the tremolo riffs, even the more triplet chugging that you would hear in death metal bands. Like Cannibal Corpse, Deicide, modern bands like Blood Red Throne, Decapitated, taking cues from some of the triplet gallops you get on songs like Enter the Eternal Fire, the quintessential black metal song, I would say. But Massacre, so brutal and fast. Woman of Dark Desires, maybe the sleaziest black metal song ever, even though it's still got like the epic keyboards, or no, the organ. I love that organ section where it gets into like this groove stomp. Equimanthorn, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but whatever. That's a great track. 13 Candles. Chariots of Fire is a barn burner. Call from the Grave.
Yeah.
Probably in terms of lyrics, one of my favorite lyrical songs, because pleading from the grave to enter heaven and being denied. It's just, wow. And even the anguish that Korthon showcases vocally on that song. It's just, and the fact that it ended up in the soundtrack of a Grand Theft Auto game, like what the hell?
Yeah.
It's so weird. I
remember it being in a game. Was it Saints Row or was it Grand Theft Auto? Maybe it was Grand Theft Auto. I can't remember.
Grand Theft Auto for Stories from Liberty Seas, Lost and the Damned.
Okay,
Probably my favorite soundtrack to any game. The LCHC radio station where Max Cavalera is DJing, and you get Bathory, Celtic Frost, Creator, Cannibal Corpse, Terrorizer. Like, what better can you get? But yeah, Bathory, Under the Sign of the Black Mark, my number one first wave black metal album by far. Well, while we wait for if Ricky's even getting to come back, I don't know. Let me double check. I think maybe his internet went out.
Yeah,
probably. But I guess while we wait, the floor is yours, James.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of kind of crossover as well. I think with the lists, a few albums are I have there, and yeah, like I mentioned to you just before we went live, I didn't know what to include, like what we were what did people class as proto-black metal or first wave black metal and stuff. You know, a lot of people argue that, for example, Merciful Fate is. Some people say it isn't. I personally think it is, and it's one of my favorites. A lot of stuff I didn't include because it was like EPs and stuff. I tried to just use full album stuff, like so yeah, I didn't know with the Celtic Frost there, like Morbid Tales and stuff. You know, a lot of stuff is classed as EPs, demos, and all of that. Yeah, Sabbath, Morbid, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, we just like splitting hairs on this.
Yeah, so I was trying to kind of get the best of both, like just what I kind of thought and what. Yeah, so yeah, there's a few. So I mean, I didn't really do them in any order, but
that's fine. Yeah,
I've got. I class them as kind of together, Obsessed by Cruelty, and In the Sign. They're to me they're kind of. I put them kind of together. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this particular version that Icarus Records did, where they put both in one, and it's the original recording of Obsessed by Cruelty in standard tuning before the re-recording that would come out on vinyl.
Yeah, and personally, I like the EP better than the album. I think most people are in that, but yeah, like it's just thrash played fast and loose. Just it's extreme. It's sloppy. It's noisy. It's just crazy. Some of the lyrics are just ridiculous. You know, like on Blasphemer and stuff like that.
Yeah, masturbate to kill myself. Like holy shit.
Yeah. So songs like Blasphemer, Outbreak of Evil, like you said. Death Like Silent. I mean, of course, you would influential in naming the record label later on as well. Volcanic Slut, things like that. Just Sodom are just the whole German scene. The whole German thrash scene in the 80s was so good. That's one of my favorites. There, Sodom are probably my favorite overall.
Mine too.
my favorite albums, I think, by Solid would probably be some of their later ones, like Agent Orange, Persecution Mania, and probably like M16. I'm really into that one. It's,
Tap in the Vein.
Yeah, these are more, I guess, thrash albums rather than like there's kind of no real black metal kind of stuff there. What else? What else did you mention? Yeah, so I've got black metal and Welcome to Hell together. I didn't really know which one to.
Yeah.
So, and I wanted to, like one album per band, so I've kind of lumped these two together to take up one space. But yeah, I think Welcome to Hell, it's a lot raw. It's a lot. I think it's a bit more. I don't want to say. Yeah, I think a bit more rock and roll, and when black metal's a bit more thrash. Overall, but overall the sound is relatively similar. I think it's maybe black metal's a bit more mature and stuff, but yeah,
mature.
Yeah,
mature. Yeah,
but I get what you mean. Yeah,
it's sound on the first album. If you, it's the maybe not the right word, but I think it's a bit more
refined.
Yeah, a bit more refined. Yeah. And yeah, you've got, black metal, of course, amazing songs, and yeah, Countess Bathory, all that kind of stuff. And the album's called Black Metal, so and yeah, again, I didn't know I picked those two, but my favorite is actually At War with Satan. That's my favorite Venom album.
Oh, that's
I didn't need to get that in the collection.
But I think, yeah, in terms of this list, I didn't include it because I thought the previous two were a bit more influential and a bit more in line with the sound, the black metal sound. I think At War with Satan again is more refined and a bit more it's a bit more So yeah, I've got those two. I've went with one of Ricky's mentions was Bathory, the self-titled. So I've included that. Again, a lot of my picks kind of lean towards the more either thrash side or the rock and roll kind of side. That's why a lot of my, Hellripper and all these bands, Venom, Bathory, all that stuff. So that's kind of where my tastes are. But yeah, so you've got the first Bathory album is just kind of, the production's like horrible and stuff, so that's influential. Like it's
absolutely
kind of
and maintaining that sleaziness too. Like
yeah,
it'd be like the perfect party album.
Yeah, and a lot of songs, like Sacrifice, for example, one of the more well-known ones. It's kind of just like it's basically a Motorhead song, just kind of with
sped up.
Yeah, like extreme speeds, and I prefer the version on the compilation. I think the Scandinavian Metal Attack.
Yeah,
where it's like
more thrashy.
It's kind of it's like a Motorhead song, really. But yeah, that album, the first Bathory album, I have to include that. Again, you could put almost any Bathory album from the
80s.
Yeah. I think probably overall, I think Bathory are probably the most influential to black metal
absolutely.
Band. Yeah. In terms of everything they did, with from the first album to the third album, and then when they went off in the more epic direction as well, again influential in that sense.
And even the mid-90s stuff that a lot of people don't like, I kind of find charm in those because they just sound like Octagon. I said it in the Bathory ranking. I thought that album sounds like the best album Vader didn't write because it sounds so much like Vader. I know Ricky disagrees with me, but I'm telling you, it's not terrible. It's actually decent.
It's bad. The fucking production, the fucking drums.
Just the snare is very weird, but I thought the guitars were punchy.
Oscar the fucking Grouch. I'm like, oh god.
Do you want me to come down to Texas?
With what vehicle?
I'll find a way. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah. So yeah, again, I'll go with the ones that you've mentioned as well. So Endless Pain, I put that there. Creator. Yeah, again, I love the alternate vocals between the two. And like I said, yeah, Tormentor, Flag of Hate, still staples of the set. The early Hellripper material is basically based on that kind of stuff. Again, similar to Sodom, it's just fast and loose, extreme. Just extreme thrash. Yeah, I think that was, when was that? 1985, I think that was.
Yep.
Yeah.
85.
So yeah, I've got that in there. I already said a little bit about it when you mentioned it in your list. And then kind of following on from that in a different way is, yeah, I included Necrodeath, Into the Macabre. Yeah, it's
so
more
brutal. Such a brutal album.
It's kind of like, yeah, I mean, you could kind of compare it to like Pleasure to Kill with the rototoms, like the extreme drumming.
Yeah.
It leans a lot on death metal.
It's almost like the perfect hybrid of all things extreme, thrash, black, and death all in one. It's like, holy shit, 1987 no less.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's kind of like Pleasure to Kill, but some of the chaoticness has been replaced with a bit more of an evil atmosphere. Overall, it's not as like, I mean, there's a lot more kind of slow, doomier parts than like Pleasure to Kill, I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, in part of the Italian, a few of the Italian things I mentioned, which people kind of ignore, but great bands in that, and that kind of stuff, which then follows me to my next one, which Ricky mentioned as one of his mentions, Bulldozer, Day of Wrath. Yeah, as you said, it's basically Venom. It's basically, I think it came out, when was it out? I'm not too sure in the date.
85.
I think.
So yeah, it's almost kind of it's kind of just following on from Venom. I feel like it would be like the perfect successor to kind of the first two Venom albums.
Or
maybe
to get a little bit faster, and more aggressive.
Yeah, and I mean, it's rock and roll, like I say, a bit thrashier. It's got the kind of sets the scene. I mean, it's such a good 80s intro. It sets the scene with like the live exorcism, the clip of the exorcism, and then it goes into like extreme just chaos for a minute or whatever, like just smashing the drums and stuff. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love it. So again, that's another one of my more rock and roll type picks. Where have we got now? So again, Celtic Frost. I didn't know what to pick out of them. Personally, I prefer Morbid Tales and Emperor's Return, but yeah, since I didn't know whether if it was an album, an EP, whatever you want to class it as, I've went for To Megatherion. Just, it's unmistakable kind of, as soon as you hear the guitar tone, it's like a unmistakable guitar tone.
Yeah.
It's the mixture of kind of the thrash part, great vocals, Tom G. Warrior's shout, grunt. Yeah, of course. And all of that. A lot of murky parts, like really slow, swampy, like sludgy parts, which kind of became like a signature of the Celtic Frost sound. And yeah, you've got the songs, like Circle of the Tyrants and Jewel Throne and things, like really classic songs. But yeah, they've just kind of added on to Megatherion, they've just kind of added some atmosphere and a bit of weirdness to the album. You've got the like on Necromantical Screams, you've got the female vocals coming in, like which is really cool. Love that part. Yeah, Celtic Frost, any of their first bunch of stuff, I could have said, and Hellhammer as well. I'll go for an honorable mention there for Hellhammer. I haven't included that, but again, any of those. I think, what have I got now? I think I've got 3 left.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah. And then, real quick, just for those who wanted to see the Emperor's Return cover, there you go. One of my favorite covers ever. I wonder why.
Yeah, I wonder what band got inspired to do those kind of album covers. Midnight, perhaps?
Yeah, perhaps. But done in a real life capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I went for Root, the Revelation, which is a really cool one. I think that's just before the cutoff. I think that was 1990.
90, yep.
Yeah, I think, yeah. Again, to describe it, what could you say? It's kind of similar to Celtic Frost with the with kind of, it's weird, not spoken word vocals, but almost like sermon vocal, like deep kind of commanding,
like a deep commanding sermon. Yeah,
it's like that kind of stuff. There are some fast and chaotic parts on it, and there's some like kind of Slayer solos, just chaos solos. But the parts I like on this album are the slow, heavy, doomier parts, kind of like the Celtic Frost, like murkier parts on this album. I think are great. And when combined with the vocals, it's like quite theatrical, really weird atmosphere, really, it's like a really evil atmosphere, weird kind of thing, which I love. Then I've got a band called Merciful Fate.
Yes, of course.
Again, I don't know. A lot of people don't class this as like first wave black metal or whatever, but I do. I think the themes are there, and the kind of theatrical, like the presentation overall is there. It's just, one of the best bands ever. Merciful Fate. Merciful Fate. I've gone for both Melissa and Don't Break the Oath. I didn't know. Again, it was difficult for me to go for. I think I prefer Melissa personally. You've got the classics like Satan's Fall and Curse of the Pharaohs. Evil, of course.
Evil.
Yeah. Of course, all these great, just ridiculous. One of the best bands of all time. Vocals are
King Diamond.
I mean,
the man.
Yeah, you don't even need to say anything about the vocals. They're just amazing, and I love the guitar harmonies and the similar. I guess similar to kind of the Show No Mercy. Guitar harmonies, theatrical, and I would say influential in that way. One of my favorites of all time. And then my final album is Flames of Hell, Fire and Steel. This was an album that I think I discovered kind of early into my underground metal exploration, just by browsing YouTube. Just recommended videos on the side of like whatever Bathory or Creator or something. And I think they only had one album. I think they're from Iceland, if I'm not mistaken. I can't quite remember. I think. Yeah.
I believe so as well.
Yeah.
Double checking. Yep, Iceland.
Iceland, which I'm not sure if there were any. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know if there were any like kind of similar things going on in Iceland in the same time. I'm not too sure.
Probably not.
Probably not. Maybe probably after the mid 90s when you started getting more Icelandic bands coming forward.
Yeah. So this album is really cool. Again, I would describe it's kind of like a mixture of like early Creator with black metal rawness and like Merciful Fate. It's got some like kind of Merciful Fate type vocals, I guess. Like the vocals kind of alternate between like shouts and shrieks and kind of
and then the falsetto comes in here and there.
like what do you call it? Like rough vocals as well, like screeching. Like the vocals are like kind of unhinged. It's kind of great, and it reminds me again a bit of Sabbath with some of the rhythms and the unhinged vocals. Like just kind of just the vocals are just kind of going everywhere, and the rhythms are similar to what like kind of Sabbath would use, like kind of groovy type things. Some Celtic Frost type vocals on there as well. But it's a really cool album. And I don't think they've done anything else after that. I'm not too sure, but
I think it was their only thing they ever did, which is
that's one of the albums. Yeah, that was one of my YouTube discoveries early on. When you get recommended stuff, which I'm very thankful for. A lot of my music taste came from these like YouTube.
Mine too.
Yeah, just you would just go on like, I don't know, say a Metallica video or something, or Toxic Holocaust or whatever, and just at the side you would have like related newer bands or really obscure old bands. Like it happened a lot with like the new wave of British heavy metal as well. Just like these random bands that have one demo or one EP or something, and someone's uploaded them to YouTube 30 years later, and it reaches a whole new audience of people that would never have heard it otherwise, like myself. So great. Yeah. So that's my 10. I think that was 10.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think. Excellent. Wow. Yeah, definitely a lot of crossover. And now that Ricky's finally back.
Apologies in advance. We had a blackout last for 3 minutes. I was like, fuck. You gotta be kidding me.
I kind of was trying to figure out what the hell happened. I thought your internet just went to.
Nah, I was like, shit, motherfucking hell. But digress. My top 10, here they are. So number 10, Ava mentioned in his list, Masters Hammer's Ritual. Yeah, a band out of Czech Republic, which you gotta thinking about it in the context of that time. Not that many bands that are known were coming out of the Czech Republic, especially playing black metal or going on sort of like a proto thrash band, to be honest. But Ritual is one of those albums that needs to be more listened to, because when it comes to like black metal albums in the 80s, not that many people mention Ritual. There's quite a few people who kind of mention it if you're like really, really into the deep underground of black metal, and Ritual needs to get more up there on the list alongside something like a Bathory or a Venom and so on and so forth. My number 9 is, of course, I was going to say Hellripper for a minute there. Hellhammer, motherfucker. Hellhammer's Apocalyptic Rites. Or I could have gone also with Satanic Rites. You could have gone with that too, even though that's more of a demo. But Apocalyptic Rites, one more kind of say about Apocalyptic Rites has been said before. I still need to get in the collection one of these days eventually, hopefully down the road. But, regardless of that, it's Hellhammer, Number 8, James mentioned it, Melissa's Merciful Fate. Yeah, I know the argument that sure, Merciful Fate's not really black metal. I do see why people might say that, but you got to think about it. When this was released, I mean, at the time, what many people besides Kiss had the makeup, the corpse makeup?
Right.
I mean, of course, that was influential for of course, Sarcophagus did that for a bit. Of course, in the Norwegian black metal bands did that later on. For a short period of time, Slayer sort of had the makeup probably in the early years, because Slayer was inspired by King Diamond. Of course, we know that very well because of Kerry King. And, it's songs are great. The title track's my favorite track. Evil, Dan Housen's favorite song. Into the Coven, At the Sound of the Demon Bell, Black Funeral. It's an all-on great album. I could have gone with Don't Break the Oath as well, but to me, Melissa was the album that got me more into Merciful Fate and later on King Diamond and all that.
Yeah.
Don't follow me.
Now you done there, Ricky. Yes, my name is Danhausen. I do think that Merciful Fate Melissa is indeed a very nice, very evil album.
I mean, let's be honest. Danhausen was inspired by King Diamond. I mean, you can fucking see it.
But anyways,
my number 7, I have Sepultura's Morbid Visions. I had to put this on the list, and at the beginning, when I was getting to Sepultura, of course, I will listen to everything from Arise forward. I never got to listen to the early stuff, which was, of course, Morbid Vision and Schizophrenia, even though Schizophrenia...
And Beneath the Remains.
And Beneath the Remains. But Schizophrenia, you could also make the argument it could have easily gone on this list, but I think by Schizophrenia, they were a bit more mature, a bit more
straight up thrash, maybe death thrash.
Yeah, a bit more thrashy. But with Morbid Visions, you can easily hear the inspirations by Bathory, Venom, Hellhammer, Celtic Frost.
Slayer.
They were eating that a lot, and the fact that Sepultura, a band out of Brazil, which we'll talk about another Brazilian band in a bit, had that kind of raw and just power to create something unique that it's been debated for the longest time. Like, is it black metal? Is it thrash metal? Is it inspiration by death metal? It's a combination of everything.
Hybrid of all of that. Yeah.
It's a hybrid, it's a hybrid of all things, and it's fucking amazing. And of course, I'm really excited for the Cavalera brothers to re-record it, and I might see them on tour. They're coming to San Antonio, so I might catch them during the summer.
If I get to, maybe I might get to see them with Exhumed.
Maybe it depends. If the stars aligned, we'll see what happens. My number 6, In the Sign of Evil EP. Probably one of my favorite EPs of all time. To me, Sodom. Yeah, at the beginning, I can tell you I was one of those people that didn't think Sodom was sort of black metal. I still don't, to be honest, because I always associate Sodom with thrash metal. But as I got more into their sound, into the early albums, I started to realize that if it weren't for Sodom, not how many black metal bands would have been what they are today. My favorite song on the EP is, of course, Blasphemer. That just evil laugh at the beginning of the album. It's just so creepy, just fucking brutal. And seeing it live in the videos they've done, my God, they were so young at the time. I'm like, God damn, that's why it's so thrashy and so brutal and black. And, it's fucking Sodom. Yeah, like I said, many people think it's black metal. They're not really black metal. They're more of a thrash band, but inspiration to the genre. My number, where was I? 1, 2, 3. My number 6, the Death Crush EP. Another EP. And again, Euronymous, I hate doing this. It's like beating a dead horse. You were inspired by death metal. I'm just saying. But regardless, that rawness of the band at the time. Of course, Maniac's vocals, Messiah's vocals, Euronymous on guitar. Was Necro Butcher still?
Yep, Necro Butcher on bass.
Yeah, Necro Butcher, and of course...
and Mannheim on drums. The only studio release with him on drums before Hellhammer came in.
Yeah, before Hellhammer came in. But, it's one of those things that, if you think about it, I'm just imagining Euronymous during that time when he was inspired by death metal. And then if he was still been alive and would have been alive when De Mysterious was around... it would have been like, what the fuck did I just do in those early years? Which, knowing Euronymous, he would have ignored and never re-released it. But thankfully, he's not here. And of course, that album keeps going on, being released. And it's a template of what the Norwegian black metal scene would have eventually been in the later years, of course, with Dark Throne and Immortal and so on and so forth. Now it's the top 5. At number 5, Sarcophagus INRI. This was one of the first albums in black metal that I actually, watching Banger TV, discovered. Which is kind of shocking to think that Banger TV kind of helped me discover this band. Then again, they kind of helped me discover so many bands. And I only thought that Sepultura was the only major known inspiration for black metal in Brazil. And then when I listened to Sarcophago, I was like, oh no, this is way better than Morbid Visions, in my personal opinion, to some certain extent. And then, of course, the rivalry that they had between the Caballeros and and Sarcophago, I was like, it got a little bit messier. Then again, I would love to see a show eventually in the future, maybe Sarcophago or Sepultura. Are they still touring though?
No, Sarcophago broke up in 2000. So they've been defunct for years. Well, Wagner occasionally will get on stage.
I was gonna say, I know eventually he does shows time to time under the Sarcophago name or something.
Could you imagine if Wagner, if he had already made peace with Max and Igor, if he got up on stage and they did stuff from Bestial Devastation?
I mean, I think they have. If Axel and Slash could bury the hatchet, which that was way worse, to be honest. I mean, I'm pretty sure and the Calaveras could, easily bury the hatchet. But, it's INRI. And the fact that it's INRI, I was like, oh, shit. It hit to Christianity and, like, poop, right in your motherfucking face. Number 4, and I actually have the album right here, Morbid Tales. I had to put it on the list. It's Celtic Frost, the rawness. I mean, into
seconds, guys. I'm a popular person today.
The damn doorbell.
It should be an evil doorbell. I'm just imagining Dan Helson's doorbell. Oh, yes, very evil. Yes. Being the Exorcist.
That'd be more fitting, I would say.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
But Morbid Tales, of course, Tom G. Ward, Mark, Aaron, and Stephen Priestley. Everything about this album is fucking great. To the point that a young Sam Dunn actually, during middle school, was, trying to, make it into his logo. And you can see the little writings on the album. That's how much he loved this album. And it's evil, brutal. What more can you say about Celtic Frost? Hasn't been said before in so many things. It's up there. Now to the top 2. So the top 2 were kind of difficult because you can go either or. I love both these albums. They're both influential to the genre in so many ways. And quite honestly, I could have easily done in one of them, like a whole
kind of thing.
Yeah, I could obviously have 5 albums, 6 albums, 7 albums, and just dispense discographies in the top 10. But of course, I have to make some tough decisions. But number 2, Under the Sign of the Black Mark. My favorite Bathory album of all time, next to The Return and Bloodfire Death, which, like I mentioned before, I could have easily put the first 4 Bathory albums in this list. I mean, because they're all fucking great. From, of course, raw black metal to more of a Viking black metal eventually in the future, to this, which is the bare standard for Bathory, which I'm pretty sure this is one of the albums that inspired James to, of course, create Hellripper. I mean, you can see easily the influences on this album. To me, I mean, Woman of Dark Desires, Into the Eternal Fire, Chariots of Fire, Equimanthorn.
Lots of fire.
Lots of fire. 13 Candles. And by this point, Corson was becoming more mature with his vocals, lyrically.
And songwriting.
And songwriting, and more of a kind of more solos than usual, if you kind of think about it. And the production was kind of getting a bit better because the first 2 were a bit muddy. Then again, the second album was the only album recorded in a studio. But regardless of that, it's Under the Sign of the Black Mark, one of the greatest black metal albums of all time. And of course, number 1, black metal. It's fucking Venom. What we're gonna say? A fucking goat's head. Funny. I wonder where James got the idea from. And Patrick got the idea from.
You had to split hairs there that time.
It's black metal. What more can I say? It's in the fucking name.
I'm giving you a noogie like a big brother would do to a little brother. We're stupid. We know.
We
But
are stupid. We are.
Imagine
stupid.
that being a wrestling chant.
It is a wrestling chant once in a while. Like, we are idiots.
Maybe when Jericho was around or something.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so yeah, that was for our individual 10 first wave proto-black metal albums. And yeah, this was a ton of fun. And to go back through the old school stuff from this genre that's gone through many phases. I mean, hell, we were talking like maybe in the future, Ricky and I and our other host, Boss, whenever he is back. Yeah, he was going to be on here, but he was pretty busy. And actually, he left a comment. He wanted to ask you a question, James, since he couldn't make it. He wanted to ask you if you could be or you can open for any band, past or present, who would you love to open for?
No, it would have to be 80s Metallica, of course.
Yeah.
Got to be 80s Metallica. Yeah. Don't know which period. I love the Seattle, the late 80s period, but I also love the 1983-4 period as well, where it's it's a bit more raw, a bit more
extreme.
Yeah, but yeah, from 1980, maybe 86, the speed of everything live just goes 100 miles an hour faster.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine Hellripper eventually opening for Metallica in the future?
I mean, Metallica's taking Epica on the road in Europe right now for them big shows.
Mm-hmm.
You never know. I mean, there have been many times where hell.
Or hell. How about this for an idea, James? You covering Master of Puppets.
Master of Puppets.
That would be pretty freaking sweet. Put your own blackened twing on.
Oh, I'm just imagining with your vocal delivery. Obey your master.
Yeah,
that would be pretty sweet.
I really wanted to, when the Lux Eterna came out, I really wanted to cover that in a Hellripper style just for fun, but I just didn't have time. It would have been fun, but yeah, we used to cover Whiplash live a lot.
Oh yes.
A few years ago. Yeah, we haven't done it in a few years, but yeah, we used to cover. Yeah, we used to do a lot more cover songs because we used to kind of play kind of some local shows, and we used to just kind of. It was just a lot of it was in like rehearsal spaces and stuff. So we covered a whole bunch of songs.
Or how about this? Fade to Black.
Fade to Black. I mean,
just to hear what kind of twists and turns.
Yeah, I don't even know what I'd do to that. Yeah, I've got no idea what I'd do to that.
I mean, for Fade to Black, you probably. I mean, I don't know. You will be up to this, like sing clean vocals at first, and then
build your way up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that'd be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah, I don't know how I would do that. I think I would just go for the more extreme ones. I'd just do like Fight Fire with fire or something.
Creeping Death. Creeping Death.
Creeping Death. That'd be a good one. Or even
die by hand. I feel across the land.
Or, man, there's just so many from the 80s you could go down.
One,
yeah.
That would be an interesting one for sure. Or, Disposable Heroes would be pretty cool.
Disposable Heroes are great.
Just to go off the chain with it all. But
Battery would be great. Yeah, we could go down this rabbit hole all day and just still be coming up with stuff. But anyway, so that will do it for this episode of the Horsemen podcast. Yeah, first one in only 10 days since the last one. Quickest gap we've had in a little while, and that's because we're finally starting to get some stuff rolling again with this show. But reminder to those watching, eventually we do have a couple of different guests down the road, just depending on timing, like John McEntee from Incantation and Samantha Mobley from Frozen Soul to be on here, and then maybe we'll eventually get the remaining two Blood Red Throne guys, so that way we've completed the lineup. Because Ricky and we've pretty much become friends with that band, and it's awesome. But real quick, before we go, reminder that if I can remember before I end up leaving for work here after bed,
I'll put all of James's social media and Bandcamp in the description of this episode. So for those of you uninitiated, shame on you if you haven't, go check out James on his social media platforms, Instagram, and most especially Bandcamp, and get some stuff, because at some point, I'm hoping very soon, I'll finally buy me a Hellripper shirt. I've been slacking because I've been on such a CD craze. I need to get some shirts eventually. But yeah, Hellripper shirt will be coming to me soon. I just gotta remember, brain. Okay, thank you. So, but yeah, that does it for this episode. Until next time, everybody watching, keep your horns high and your dreams wet.
Bye.